I'm here with Senator Shirley Nathan Pulliam to pay tribute to E. Leopold Edwards, a giant of the Caribbean and Jamaican community for many, many years. Why should Leo Edwards be honored?
Eric Leopold Edwards, OD, was a giant of a man. He was a distinguished gentleman. He had a warm, caring spirit. He was a visionary and an excellent organizer and gave service back to his community. He was a dedicated and knowledgeable leader. And for those reasons, he, as we said, he was born in Jamaica. But even though he was born in Jamaica, we always say that he was truly a Caribbean man. And that's the reason why we wanted to honor him. This is a celebration. So we're celebrating the life of E. Leopold Edwards.
Tell me, Senator Nathan Pulliam, what kind of an impact did Leo Edwards have on your life?
Oh my gosh, I met Leo in 1967 at one of the Caribbean American Intercultural Organization ball, the organization that he founded in 1958. And in 1970, I became a member of CAIO, then a board member, and then a life member. And in those board meetings, Leopold Edwards always emphasized the importance of Caribbean people serving on boards and commission and running for political office. He always says that we all come to this country thinking we're going to spend 3 to 5 years, and we end up spending 50 or more years, and that we have children and we pay taxes and we should be involved. And so he became my mentor. And so when I decided to run for office, he was there for me.
And many of us in the Caribbean community have been inspired by Leo Edwards.
Leo Edwards was a truly remarkable man. He was blessed with unquestioned intellect, and throughout his life, he dedicated himself to the well-being and upliftment of persons of color, and particularly those who came with Caribbean ancestry. He was so familiar with local events here that he became a very knowledgeable person. It is almost as though he had not left Jamaica. On every trip of mine to Washington, whether as foreign minister, in the opposition, or as prime minister, I always sought his counsel and his advice. He gave of himself unstintingly to developing close relationships with the people of the Caribbean and those who belong to the African diaspora. He was a man of seemingly inexhaustible energy despite the passage of time. He was passionate in those things which he held precious and dear, and always making a constructive contribution to find solutions rather than to face problems and be daunted. He was courageous in sticking to the things he believed. He was a man of great intellect and eloquence, and would hold his corner against anyone with competing views. He was not one to seek the limelight for himself. He was not looking for encomiums or praise or medals. He was simply contributing meaningfully to the causes in which he believed. I shall miss him as a friend, as a companion in the struggle. And as we celebrate his life, we remember the things which he defended and the things which he achieved. If we try to follow in his footsteps, we will enable the realization of that dream and that vision which made human beings, irrespective of color, creed, class, or gender, one. We celebrate today and forever the legacy of a man who gave of himself without considering for a moment the difficulties which might confront him when he was defending principles. Goodbye, friend. We will meet you in the great beyond.
The transition of our beloved Leo Edwards left me with immense sadness. His departure marks without question the closing of a distinctive era and chapter in the Jamaican American community and the Caribbean American community as well. But first, let me express my very deep, heartfelt sympathies to Carmen, Leo's wife and ever-present co-laborer in the cause of Caribbean American affairs, and to his son Hugh and the rest of the Edwards family, and likewise the many friends and fellow laborers now mourning. Eric Leopold Edwards, a son of Jamaica, was by no means an ordinary man. Humility and service were enduring hallmarks of his life. Whether to Jamaicans and Caribbean people or their leaders here in the United States, or back home in Jamaica and the other Caribbean countries, he gave a great deal. His adopted country benefited too, as he stayed ever true to his convictions and took decisive action to help bring about a better society for everyone. And it earned him tremendous respect all around, including the halls of Congress, city halls, and from ordinary members of the community. I'm gratified that we at the embassy did honor Leo's selfless contributions to Jamaica and the Jamaican diaspora. I certainly considered him our elder statesman in the Washington area Jamaican community. Mindful too that the Jamaican government recognized his worth and bestowed on him the National Order of Distinction. I consider myself blessed by his personal friendship and to have learned from his generous, wise counsel and his insight as one of my mentors when I first arrived in Washington, D.C. 10 years ago. I will never forget his and Carmen's kindness in hosting me in their home and introducing me to so many outstanding members of our diaspora. As the loss of this genuine treasure of a man and personal friend sinks in, I can draw comfort from knowing that Leo has gone on to his higher calling, having put in a good innings here on earth. 95 years of a very fruitful sojourn. And we are ever grateful he was lent to us for such a long time. So I salute his memory. Long will he live in our hearts. And Leo Edwards' legacy will definitely live on in the community he helped to create. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
I extend heartfelt condolence to Carmen, his enduring wife and ally, to his family, loved ones, friends, and to all Jamaicans in the diaspora and in Jamaica, on the passing of Eric Leopold Edwards. To understand the meaning of the life of Leo Edwards, we must all consider Leo's life to have been a pure gift, and through gratefulness, that inner gesture of giving meaning to our lives by receiving life as a gift. Now, the deepest meaning of Leo's life lies in the fact that it has been given to us. In loving memory of Leo and in sympathy with Carmen, I thank Carmen and Leo's family for sharing him with us. A disciple-like West Indian, a pioneer, a torch-bearer, a mentor, leader in the Caribbean American community, who left us footprints from home in the Caribbean on the shores of America through his relentless efforts to improve both worlds. Well done, good and faithful servant. May you rest in peace.
Mr. Leo Edwards was a citizen of the world, and we were blessed to be represented by a leader for his advocacy and commitment to the Caribbean communities in the Washington metropolitan area, with special emphasis on Jamaica. Leo's legacy of civic contributions and his outstanding tireless work will continue to have an impact in the Caribbean American diaspora. Our sympathy goes out to his wife Carmen, who supported Caribbean and Jamaican organizations along with Leo over the years, and to the rest of the family. From Dr. Elaine Knight, President of the Jamaica Nationals Association of the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area.
It is such a great pleasure for me to join with so many others in celebrating and honoring the life of someone who has done so much to mold our community. Eric Leopold Edwards, affectionately known as Leo to one and all, he actually came to America in the 1940s as a student at Howard University. As such, he saw the best of America and the worst of America. In those days, it was dangerous for blacks and people of color to venture below U Street. Leo, in this atmosphere, he tried to do what he could to galvanize the Caribbean students and the Jamaican students to form a cohesive bloc. He did this by dint of many associations, including the Caribbean American Intercultural Organization, the Council of Caribbean Organizations, NAJASO, and so on, all in an effort to make sure that the Jamaican voice, the Caribbean voice, would be heard. And this he did in a splendid way. So today we pay homage to him for the legacy that he has provided to all of us to make it easier for this and future generations to prosper. So while we celebrate the Caribbean, the Jamaican diaspora today, we must acknowledge the gift of someone as Leo Edwards in paving the path.
When you volunteer your time, your passion, your skills, and your knowledge to positively impact individuals, organizations, and issues, and in doing so, contribute to the common good of a wider community, when you find ways to give and then give some more, you are Leo Edwards. I met Leo at the first Caribbean American Political Action Committee, CPAC's founding patrons luncheon over a decade ago. He was, of course, accompanied by his beloved Miss Carmen, and what a couple they made. Over the years, I learned about his accomplishments and his seminal body of work. But as awesome as his career achievements were, what impressed me most about Leo was his devotion to the Caribbean community. He was always concerned about how he could help his beloved Caribbean, and he loved CPAC. He would often hold my hands and remark that Over the decades, an organization like CPAC had been mentioned and not materialized. But, he would say, you all came along and made it a reality in my lifetime. He was a member of our advisory board and never missed a luncheon or a board meeting over the years. And he gave of his time and other resources to help the organization thrive. A meeting with Leo was an educational experience. You left his presence more informed and enlightened. He was a giving spirit with a perspective that was seasoned with wisdom and his life experience. With his death, we've lost a trailblazer, and CPAC has lost one of our most supportive first founding patrons. Leo will be remembered, and he will be missed by CPAC's executive and advisory boards, our members, and our friends. May Leo rest in peace.
Leo Edwards, Jamaican, has been the longest serving Caribbean diplomat in quotation marks in the United States. Since he arrived in Washington, D.C. to attend Howard University in the 1940s, he has consistently been an advocate and activist for Caribbean affairs both in the United States and in the Caribbean. He has been part of the founding and leadership of several major Caribbean organizations. During my tenure as Jamaica's ambassador to the United States, Leo was a consistent supporter. He and his very active partner, Carmen, attended all major functions related to the Caribbean. He provided me with sage advice on numerous political issues. In particular, he was always able to provide insights, and very importantly, he was able to provide the history and origin and analysis of many of the current issues which I grappled with. He was an invaluable advisor to me and became a close personal friend. I shall certainly miss not only his friendship and his advice.
Steadfast, committed, principled, quiet strength. These are the words that come to mind when I think of Leo Edwards. I first met Leo when I joined the staff of the Embassy of Jamaica here in Washington as the economic attaché. Ambassador Bernal was ambassador at the time, and I quickly realized that Leo was part of what I used to call the Ambassador's Council of Advisors. And furthermore, that he was considered the elder statesman in the Jamaican community. You could never have guessed that though, given his unassuming personality. Leo was a staunch supporter of initiatives that the embassy had. He never missed an event. And what really impressed me was the fact that he always came with his wife to these functions. It was only later, after I'd left the embassy, that I really came to appreciate the wider impact that Leo had on the Jamaican diaspora and the role he had played in really creating a cohesive Jamaican community in the Maryland and DC area. He had also helped to mobilize his community to support all the economic and social developments in Jamaica. I think that we have lost a giant in Leo's passing. My sincere condolences go out to Mrs. Edwards and the family. Rest in peace, Leo. I'm so happy that I got to know you.
My name is Gabriel Christian. I was born on the island of Dominica, and about 40 years ago I met Leo Edwards when I was about 22 years old. At that time I was a member of the Caribbean Students Association at the University of the District of Columbia, which is a city university in Washington, D.C. And even then I understood that Leo Edwards was someone of majestic effort, someone who believed in Caribbean unity, who believed in the freedom of Africa and of all African descended people. He was a strong advocate of Jamaica's independence before Jamaica became independent, and he was a strong advocate of the West Indian Federation, bringing all the islands of the former British West Indies together into one political entity. Leo Edwards devoted his life to the improvement of conditions in the entire Caribbean. Whenever there was a hurricane or there was an issue on Capitol Hill or in the press, degrading West Indians or trying to act contrary to West Indian interests, Leo Edwards would be there as a champion of our interest and of our advancement as a people. As he has passed on, he's really left us a legacy rich in commitment to community, commitment to duty. What duty? Well, duty to ensuring that our people are endowed with the best in way of education, with the best in way of economic opportunity, with the best in way of leadership that's integrity driven within a rule of law regime where we have justice not just for some but for all. And so to the young West Indians in Washington DC area or in the Caribbean or wherever you may hear this message, remember that in our societies we only can thrive where there are those like Leo Edwards who unselfishly commit themselves, their time, their effort, their resources to building the beloved community. And to all West Indians, I say, take up his mantle, follow in his path. That would be the best tribute to a life well lived. So in this moment, we extend our condolences to his wife, Carmen, to his friends and family, including Ambassador Curtis Ward, through whom I got to know Leo even better. And let it be known that we shall remember him, in particular, when we continue in his spirit of forward movement for all people of Caribbean descent and for a better world. God bless Leo Edwards.
I first met Leo Edwards when my husband founded the Guyana National Association back in 1975. And I was impressed by his commitment to the Caribbean then. I was also impressed with his history. He always had a great story to tell about his experiences coming to America. He was very supportive of my husband with the Guyana National Association. He was also very supportive of anything or anyone who was connected to the Caribbean. As long as they were working for the benefit of the Caribbean, Leo was willing to support and be there as a sounding board to give advice, whatever was needed. He will be sorely missed because I know that he mentored many young people at the time, some of whom have gone on to get more involved in politics. Many people became more involved in their communities. One of the things that most people did not pay attention to was county councils and local councils. And he was very big on making sure that Caribbean people got involved with the councils. He was grooming my husband to become a member of one of the committees in Montgomery County. He said that West Indians had to start by getting involved locally, and eventually they would understand the system to the point where they would be able to make a contribution on a larger scale. And so I think that that was one of the things that impressed me most about him. He will be sorely missed. May his soul rest in peace.
I have known Leo for most of my adult life. He was the quintessential Caribbean man. I was blessed that he chose me to be his eye physician. I always look forward to his visits, which became a happening, as inevitably the conversation always focused on Caribbean affairs and what, as Jamaicans overseas, we could do to change things back home. Later, when I would see him in professional meetings on Caribbean matters, he always turned up with a purpose in mind, and even if the discussion became heated, he was respectful. The consummate diplomat, he brought dignity to the proceedings, never raised his voice in disagreement, and brought a fresh perspective and was a very good listener. On a more personal level, Leo was a mentor to me, a father figure, and an example for us in the wider Jamaican community. Through his action, he always encouraged us to come together and do our best to help Jamaica's development. Leo, you have left a space that no one can fill. Rest assured, though, that we will carry on your legacy.
Hello, my name is Claudette Lindsay, host of the Caribbean Exchange in Baltimore, Maryland. The Caribbean has lost a giant in Eric Leopold Edwards. Eric Leopold Edwards, affectionately known as Leo, was an ever-present fixture in the Caribbean community in the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore metropolitan areas, as well as in Greater Maryland and Virginia. His legacy is one of service. Leo dedicated his entire life serving others. He served with dignity, grace, and pride. He was always doing something for the Caribbean community, both here in the United States and back home in Jamaica. Leo was truly a Caribbean man. Leo was kind and generous, always willing to lend a helping hand. Leo founded several organizations in the United States dedicated to uplift, educate, and foster greater relationships between the people of the United States and the Caribbean. He was also an active member in various organizations. He was a guest on my radio program several times. I can remember a number of occasions when I needed a guest for my talk show to talk about issues in the Caribbean community. I could call Leo, and of course, he would give me his deep perspective. He was a walking encyclopedia in the Caribbean experience. When he was not available, he would find the right person to enhance the show. Leo, although you're not with us physically, your memory will stay with us, and the work that you have done will continue to inspire and change lives for generations. Leo, rest in peace.
Thank you for affording me the opportunity to pay tribute to the late E. Leopold Edwards. Leo, as he was affectionately known, served many roles in the Washington metropolitan Caribbean community. Teacher, mentor, leader, elder statesman, and font of knowledge about Caribbean history and politics. His dedication to the service of the people of the Caribbean is unsurpassable. For over 50 years as the leader of CAIO, a group he co-founded, Leo carried the torch for our Caribbean community. His savvy presence our sword, his knowledge and personality our shield. He will be sorely missed. Our hearts are heavy as we say farewell to this quintessential Caribbean man. May heaven's angels place him on their wings and lead him to a safe haven.
In tribute to the griot who has gone before, but not left us, the wonderful Uncle Leo, whose name is remembered probably daily, probably hourly, by an extended community of Jamaicans around the world, and most particularly by the Jamaicans in Washington and New York and the East Coast of the USA, anywhere that people celebrate the resilience and strong spirit of Jamaicans. Today, we've just heard that yet another Jamaican, Kamala Harris, has been nominated for a high position, second highest position, as a vice presidential candidate. And we reflect on Leo at this time particularly because he laid a foundation for so many different people. He was in fact an unstinting cornerstone and visionary for so many of us. And though we miss him, as the African proverb goes, we will always call his name, so he will never die. Leo, your family, known to you and way around the world, remember you, send blessings to Carmen, and vow to continue the work that you so ably started. Aluta continua, Leo, with all love.
I am pleased to be invited to pay tribute to Leo Edwards, for he was the one, together with his wife Carmen, who introduced me to the international community in Washington. In my former professional life experience, I was a phytonematologist with a PhD from Cornell, where I studied the damage done to plants by nematodes. But then I became a senator in the government of St. Lucia and a senior research fellow working in the South Pacific, Africa, Latin America. The field of nematology was related in a way to the field of diplomacy, because it called for an understanding of the problems facing us, and so it is with diplomacy. And our method in dealing with those problems are comparable in a sense. CAIO evolved from the Caribbean Studies Association of Howard University, which was founded by the late Sir Eric Williams, the first Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago in 1944. Leo served as president of the Howard University Student Association between 1949 and 1954. NCOCA, the National Association on Caribbean Affairs, was headed by Leo. And his definition of the problem in the Caribbean was embodied in a statement that the culture of a people is expressed through their language, food, dress, music, poetry, visual arts, and their relationship with everyday life. In the real world, in order to emancipate oneself from mental slavery, it is important to understand oneself, but it is also important to understand others. And so Leo, in his years here in Washington, embodied the whole principle of an awareness of the problems in the Caribbean and assisting our Caribbean people and governments in approaching the United States government and its various agencies in finding solutions to our problems. So his contribution to the Caribbean has been immense over the years, fortified by his wife Carmen and our Caribbean community as a whole. We are very grateful to him for all that he has done for us here in Washington.
On behalf of the Caribbean American Advisor Group of Montgomery County, Maryland, I pay tribute to Mr. Leo Edwards. Leo Edwards, a founding member of this advisor group, was appointed by the Montgomery County Executive, Isaiah Leggett, as the co-chair and served in this role for many years as a voice of the Montgomery County residents. And for that and more, we are grateful. He was affectionately called Uncle Leo by many. His affection, his leadership, and passion for the Caribbean and for all earned him this noble title. He was a teacher and a mentor to all of us. His daily life and his activities were a lesson to all. He was a giant in our communities and for sure has left his mark. I can say without a doubt that he has left the Caribbean region, the USA, and the world better than he found it. Rest in peace, Leo Edwards.
On behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Baltimore, TTAB, I wish to offer comfort and condolences to the family, relatives, and friends of Leopold Leo Edwards. It's truly unfortunate that the times do not allow us to honor the lives of many who have passed on in the manner in which they lived. So it is with Leo Edwards. I had the pleasure of first meeting Mr. Edwards back in the late 1970s, when community organizations and professional associations from within the Baltimore, Washington area were extremely vibrant. They were at their very best. There were not too many events that these organizations and professional associations sponsored at which you did not see Leo Edwards, because he was well aware back then that was how you communicated best as a leader. Many of you who are closer can better express the breadth and depth of his interaction with these various communities. What I can say about him, most of you already know or have already said. I can say he was a pillar in the Jamaican and Caribbean American communities, but you already know that. I can say he advocated passionately for many years on behalf of those communities in the Baltimore, Washington, Maryland, Virginia, DC, and internationally, but that too you already knew. What I can say also is, besides being a trailblazer, a historian, and a great leader, Leo Edwards was truly a great husband, father, an elderly statesman, a friend, and most of all, a perfect gentleman. That is, until and unless he found it necessary to advocate a little bit more passionately and vociferately on behalf of the Caribbean community which he so loved and adored. Rest in peace, Leo Edwards. We love and celebrate you.
Hi, my name is Joy Dufour, paying tribute to Mr. Leopold Edwards. I feel very blessed and privileged to have known Mr. Edwards. I met Mr. Edwards back in 1965 when I first came to this country, living in Washington, D.C. And as a Jamaican at that time, you know, there weren't so many Jamaicans then, but Mr. Edwards was already here, very well established, and boy, he represented. You made you feel proud. So I'm going to fast forward to the last 3 years of Mr. Edwards' life, where I can proudly say I was his chauffeur. I picked him up, he and his lovely wife, Mrs. Carmen Edwards, when there would be affairs at the embassy, most notably the independent service, because I so looked forward to our drive and the conversation. Mr. Edwards was still very engaged in the Caribbean issues and still very much keeping up with the latest news, and he spoke with such grace. He was such a gentleman and a gentle soul, and he will be missed. I just want to close by saying that when I think of Mr. Edwards, this is what I can, or I actually do. You know, you reflect and you do your little nodding. Then you can tap your heart. I tap my heart. And then I just smile. His legacy lives on.
Eric Leopold Edwards, who we affectionately and respectfully call Leo. He is really one of a kind. I personally refer to him as the godfather of the Caribbean diaspora. Leo is a founding member of several Caribbean organizations, to the best of my knowledge. And so I'm so proud to have known him for over 40 years. He was a friend and also a mentor to me, especially in my early days getting involved in organizations. I sat with him in quite a few board meetings, and that's when I recognized his passion for strong leadership in the Caribbean community. He believes in protocol, organization, policy, and procedures, that sort of a thing, because you want to make sure that organizations survive, and that's the only way you think organization can survive, with good policy and procedures. I personally can recall 32 years ago when I told Leo we were forming a Jamaican association in Baltimore, Maryland. And I won't forget what he told me. He said, Rick, it cannot be a fly-by-night organization. It's a Jamaican organization. And you have to make sure you have a strong foundation. And so, consequently, after a certain period of time, we had to get in touch with Leo to ensure that we were doing things the right way. And certainly it was there for us. And that organization today is the Jamaica Association of Maryland. Thanks, Leo. You know, when I reflect back on some of the things that you have done, I'm amazed. I can only speak of a few. He played an important role on the board. In fact, he was the chairman of the board of directors for TransAfrica. And that's the DC chapter. They protest against apartheid, that most people know. And Leo would be out there marching with several people, protesting in the street. But fortunately, he was not one of those who were beaten by the police. Leo served as advisor to several Caribbean organizations, including NAJASO, the National Association of Jamaicans in Supportive Organization. And I can tell you, in recognition of his significant contribution, he earned a lot of awards and citations, many. Certainly, he will be missed. I have to commend his wife, Carmen. She's always there with him. But Leo, may you rest in peace. I will always remember you. You were really a true patriot.
Greetings, everyone. I'm thankful and humbled by the invitation to share some memories of my mentor, big brother, and dear friend for almost 50 years. Leopold Edwards was a student at Howard University in the 1950s when racism and discrimination was rampant. He and other Caribbean students of his day helped in paving a way for those of us who would come later. Leo was intelligent, charismatic, dignified, and selfless. He had the tools to pursue great wealth or position. Instead, he chose a life of service to the Caribbean region and its peoples. He was committed and determined to push forward his vision of unity through organization among the Caribbean people in the diaspora, because he saw the power and strength in unity and wanted us all to recognize its importance in advancing social and economic development in our region. Leo effectively awakened the minds of many in the younger generation, planting seeds for further growth. He was no slouch. His life had purpose and meaning. One of the organizations which Leo founded over the years was the Caribbean American Intercultural Organization, which greatly benefited the community in its early decades and has lasted over 50 years. Its goal and mission is still relevant today. I would be remiss if I did not mention Leo's intolerance of officers neglecting to implement Robert's Rules of Order. He was a disciplinarian, sometimes delaying meeting proceedings while frustrated members tried to push ahead. His strong position on associations adhering to their bylaws and constitution was legendary. He was a great man with a quiet demeanor, sharing his vision of a united, productive, and prosperous Caribbean region. Finally, to Carmen, his wife, and his family, it is said that remembrance never dies. Cherish the happy days that you shared with Leo. May he rest in peace. And may God bless all of us during these turbulent times. Thank you.
It is an honor and a pleasure to be able to send this small tribute about Leo Edwards. It is a pleasure tinged with much sorrow, as I'm sure I and all other Caribbean people here are sad and mourn Leo's passing. Leo was a very proud Jamaican, but he was a persistent and passionate champion of Caribbean causes. There was no Caribbean enterprise, no laudable Caribbean enterprise that Leo would not support. Over the years, his voice and his counsel were of tremendous importance in the formation and maintenance of Caribbean institutions in and around this area. Leo believed passionately that the Caribbean voices would sing much better if they sang in chorus, and perhaps one day they would together be able to sing King Alpha's song in this strange land. And how can we forget Leo and Carmen, the essential hosts, whose home was always open to Caribbean people, when the Caribbean laughter, the Caribbean food, the Caribbean spirit, and the Caribbean argument would be there well into the wee hours of the morning. We miss Leo, and all we can say is, long live his memory, and may the causes for which he fought so much, may they always be supported.
I have known Leo for over 40 years, and there was never a time when he was not the caring, unselfish person. He was always concerned about the welfare of others. Leo and Carmen were the most gracious hosts. Leo, always in charge of a well-stocked bar and ready to put a glass in your hands as soon as you enter the door to their home and sat down. Carmen would be ready with the food, always a scrumptious meal. I can recall many evenings in Leo's basement with the gathering of Caribbean ambassadors, college professors, people who work in the international organization, and Caribbean professionals. Curtis and I were never allowed to be absent or even late without getting a call from Carmen to see where we were, if we were on our way or how far away. Every new Caribbean ambassador was introduced to this gathering of Leo's friends and the rich discussion which took place on these occasions. It was always interesting when Carmen would come downstairs and announce that the dinner was ready, and we'd all go up and get our plates and go right back down to the basement to continue the discussions. Leo and Curtis were always out to some meetings, advancing the causes of Jamaican and Caribbean communities and the Caribbean region. Leo went non-stop. I recall some very pleasant stops at Leo and Carmen on my way home from work, and would be greeted by Leo's hug and, "Hello, darling." Leo was like a father figure to me. He will be missed by me and the entire Jamaican and Caribbean communities.
Mr. Edwards was a very, very good champion of good causes, human rightness, social justice, and fairness for people in this country, especially those of Caribbean origin and descent. We trust that the legacy that he has left behind and the good work that he initiated in so many areas will be continued, especially in the generation behind us. We thank God for his life, his work, his witness, and his memory. And we pray that the good work that he started, the different organizations which he helped to initiate and found, will continue to provide for the diaspora that kind of engagement so that we can make the full use of the opportunities that we have in this country. So may the soul of Leo Edwards and all other Christian souls find eternal rest in peace. We thank God for him, and to God be the glory.
I came here in 1963 to attend the Howard University. It did not take me long before I learned that I had joined a great family by knowing Uncle Leo, whom I met then. He was like the patriarch of the Howard University Caribbean family and was also well connected to the Caribbean embassies and well respected by the Caribbean organizations. I started attending Caribbean parties, meetings, functions, and especially the annual August Caribbean Unity Balls, which brought the country's constituents and ambassadors together under the leadership of Uncle Leo.
I was honored to have been associated with Mr. Edwards over the past 54 years. So I know firsthand about the integrity, creativity, tenacity, and equanimity that he displayed as he promoted, encouraged, and maintained intercultural relations between the various peoples of the Caribbean area and the people of the United States. In 1958, he founded the Caribbean American Intercultural Organization, CAIO, in Washington, D.C. CAIO served as the institution through which he executed his mission. I was so impressed by the man and his mission that in 2008, I published a book, The Caribbean American Intercultural Organization at 50, a paradigm of cooperation in two subsets of the African diaspora. Many thanks to our friend Leo.
For me, he was my mentor, he was my friend, he was by my side, I was by his side whenever we were walking the halls of Congress, lobbying on behalf of Jamaicans and Caribbean people here in the United States and on behalf of the Caribbean islands. And Leo always gave wise counsel to everyone who sought his counsel. Now, tell me, you have been involved in a number of organizations and you were a co-founder of one right in Baltimore. What was Leo's role when you were forming that organization?
Well, I would say I'm the founding mother, and Rick Nugent is the founding father, because I started bringing folks together right after Hurricane Gilbert in 1988. And I was able to reach out to you and to Leopold Edwards. And Leo, as we fondly call him, you both came over together, gave us the kind of directions that we needed. And you, Ambassador, sat down with Leo and wrote the bylaws that we needed to move us forward. So he's played a role in Caribbean organizations all the way around. I remember his work in NCOCA, and I can go on and on the works. Remember when we did the program with Ambassador Burnell at his home? There was another task force or committee that we formed to begin to help people in Jamaica and the Caribbean.
That was the Jamaica Nationals Development Foundation.
That's it.
Which we started heart surgery at the University of the West Indies Hospital in Kingston.
Yes, sure did.
Leo was a major player in our group to put this all together. You know, I could think of so many different events that I have attended with Leo. And I can tell you that Leo, without Leo, I don't think we would have had many functioning organizations oriented towards Jamaica and the Caribbean if Leo hadn't played a role. And he ensured that we follow the rules. I don't know if you have any experience with Leo on that end, where he always said that it's okay for us to have organizations, but our organizations will not last unless we follow the rules and we are prepared to serve. Do you have anything to say about that?
Oh, that is sure. We would never keep. Jam is still moving and still going now in its 30-something years since 1988. And for that reason, there there's so much that I can say that he's given to us in the guidance over these many years, to the point that we even honor him and gave him the Marcus Garvey UNIAID Award at one of our events.
Any last point you'd like to make?
Yes, I have two quick last points. I just wanted to mention his 90th birthday and all the celebrations and parties and receptions that we've been able to have at Leo's home, hosted by Carmen, who was an excellent cook and know how to make sure we felt at home. And I will never forget that. Or the night that we spent in his basement with all of ambassadors and past physicists and professors, that we sat there and talked about the Caribbean and the changes that need to happen. So finally, I want to say he was truly lived a life that matters. Leopold, he contributed much to all of our lives, all the lives that he touched. And he was a proud son of Jamaica, as I said, and he was definitely, truly a Caribbean man. And I'm honored and respected, and he's an honored and respected citizen of Maryland who spent most of his life in Silver Spring area. I will truly miss him. We will all miss him, especially those of us here virtually, while we are honoring him virtually because of COVID-19. So with that, he always will have a special place in my heart.
You mentioned Carmen.
Yes.
And I just want to know if you had any special message for her.
Carmen, you've been just a fantastic wife and friend and supporter. I know that you sat at that computer and typed all of his requests and all of the things that he did, that you were there. Without him, without you on his side, he would never be as successful as he's been. And so, Carmen, thank you for being there. Thank you for continuing to take care of Leo up until his final days. You are definitely a wife extraordinaire.
I tell you, without Carmen, Leo could not be as effective, because I'm not sure he knew how to use a typewriter. And Carmen was always there to make sure he remained organized and had everything that he needed for his wonderful work that he has done all these years.
Ambassador, one more quick thing. Can I say that it was because of Leo and you, in many cases, that we were able, that I personally was able to meet Ambassador Rattray, Ambassador Keith Johnson, who I loved dearly, Gordon Shirley, Anthony Johnson, Bastiani, Ralph Thomas, and of course our president, Margaret Burnell, Wayne McCook. All of those people were people that came into my life. And having been privileged to meet Michael Manley, PJ Patterson, Portia Simpson, Bruce Golding, all of those we were able to meet because of a man like Leopold Edwards, and you, Ambassador, has worked very closely with each of them as well.
Thank you so much. Senator Pulliam, I think we will have a wonderful tribute to the Jamaican man who was very well known in our community as the Caribbean man.